Stay away from my son, or you'll regret it for the rest of your miserable life. Magnolia Rivers froze with the cleaning brush still in her hand, chlorine dripping into the crystal-clear water of the infinity pool. Victoria Thornfield watched her from the mansion's terrace like an eagle about to strike, her ice-blue eyes piercing beneath her Chanel sun hat. I don't understand, Mrs. Thornfield," Maggie stammered, feeling her heart race. "I'm just doing my job." "Your job?" Victoria descended the Italian marble stairs with the lethal grace of a serpent. "Your job doesn't include little smiles and casual conversations with my son every morning. I saw you two yesterday. The way you looked at him." Maggie felt her face burn. It was true. In the 2 weeks since she'd started maintaining the Thornfield Mansion's pool, she and Chase had developed something, a connection. Conversations that started about water pH and ended about philosophy and dreams. Shared laughter at sunrise. "Chase is getting married in 3 months to Blair Ashworth," Victoria continued, her voice low and venomous. "A union worth $400 million. You, dear, with your cheap uniforms and calloused hands, are just a temporary distraction. A toy." The words cut like knives. Maggie blinked back tears. "I'm not anyone's toy, ma'am. And Chase is kind to me because, unlike some people, he sees human beings, not social classes." The slap came fast. Victoria raised her hand but stopped inches from Maggie's face, a cruel smile on her lips. "I see you have personality. Too bad you don't have the money to back it up. How much do you make? $2,000 a month? $3,000 on your best days?" Victoria opened her Hermes bag and pulled out a checkbook. "I'll make your life easier. $50,000 for you to disappear. Never come here again. Never talk to my son again." Maggie looked at the check being written, an amount that would change her life, pay off her father's medical debts, cover the overdue rent, buy new equipment for her barely surviving business. And then she thought of Chase, the way he looked at her, how his laugh sounded genuine when he was with her, so different from the tense, unhappy man she saw when his fiancée and mother were around. "No," Maggie said quietly. "Excuse me." "I said no." Maggie threw the brush in the bucket and faced Victoria. "I'm not a problem you can solve with money, and if Chase wants to see me, that's his choice, not yours." 2 days ago. "Are you sure about this marriage?" Chase sat on the edge of the same pool, feet in the water, watching the sunset paint Los Angeles gold and pink. Maggie was finishing vacuuming the bottom but stopped when she heard the desperation in his voice. "Sorry, it's none of my business," he murmured. "You don't seem happy," Maggie said softly, sitting beside him, keeping a respectful distance. "Happiness is a luxury people like me can't afford to pursue," Chase laughed bitterly. "I have responsibilities, an empire to run, a lineage to continue." "That's really sad. It's reality." "Your reality doesn't have to be your prison." Those words stayed with him. That night, Chase received a call from his personal attorney, Marcus, with news that seemed good on the surface. "I found a loophole in the marriage contract. If you want to cancel the wedding, there's a legal way out. But what? Your mother retains control of the company. She can disinherit you. And she probably will." Chase hung up the phone, holding that information like a dangerous secret. An exit door, an impossible challenge. Freedom at the cost of everything he knew. Present. "You've made a grave mistake," Victoria hissed, putting away the checkbook. "But I'll give you one last chance to reconsider. Chase will never choose you. He's too smart to throw away his future for a fantasy." At that moment, the mansion door opened. "Mother, what the hell are you doing?" Chase ran down the stairs, his eyes alternating between Victoria and Maggie, registering the tension, Maggie's pale face, his mother's defensive posture. "Just having a frank conversation with Miss Rivers about professionalism," Victoria said sweetly, her public mask firmly in place. "Maggie?" Chase looked at her. Maggie took a deep breath. It was now or never. Either she fled from this golden, cruel world, or she fought for the man who, against all logic, had captured her heart in just 2 weeks. "Your mother offered me $50,000 to never speak to you again," Maggie said, her voice trembling but firm. "And I refused." The silence that followed was deafening. Victoria paled with rage. Chase looked between the two women, something shifting in his eyes, a decision being made. "Mother," he said calmly, dangerously calm, "get in the car. You and I are going to have a conversation. Now." For the first time in her life, Victoria Thornfield backed down, and Maggie knew she had just declared war against one of the most powerful women in California. The Mercedes-Benz idled in the circular driveway, but neither Victoria nor Chase made a move to get in. They stood facing each other like gladiators in an arena, the afternoon sun beating down mercilessly. "You're being irrational," Victoria said, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. "That girl is manipulating you. Can't you see? She refused the money because she wants more. She's playing the long game." "The long game?" Chase laughed, a sound devoid of humor. "Mother, I've known her for 2 weeks. We've had maybe 10 conversations. She cleans the pool. That's it." "Then why are you defending her?" The question hung in the air. Chase ran his hand through his dark hair, a gesture Victoria recognized from his father, her late husband, the only man who'd ever stood up to her. "Because," Chase said slowly, "she's the first person in years who talks to me like I'm a human being, not a bank account with a heartbeat." Victoria's expression hardened. "How poetic. And what about Blair? What about the Ashworth merger? What about the 300 jobs that depend on this union? Are you willing to destroy all of that for a pool cleaner?" Before Chase could answer, another car pulled up, a white Bentley convertible. Blair Ashworth emerged in a cloud of Chanel No. 5 and designer sunglasses, her platinum blonde hair perfect despite the California wind. "Chase, darling." She air-kissed both his cheeks. "Your mother called. She said we had an emergency?" Victoria smiled triumphantly. "Blair, perfect timing. Perhaps you can talk some sense into my son." Maggie watched from the pool area, her stomach twisting. Blair was everything she wasn't. Polished, sophisticated, born into the right world. The kind of woman who belonged on Chase's arm. "What's going on?" Blair asked, her voice carrying that affected lilt of old money. "Nothing," Chase said quickly. "Just a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding?" Victoria's voice rose. "Your fiancé deserves to know that you've been carrying on with the help." "Mother!" Chase's face flushed with anger. Blair's eyes widened. She turned, spotting Maggie for the first time. "The pool girl? Chase, really? I thought you had better taste." Something inside Maggie snapped. She'd been quiet, tried to stay out of it, but she wouldn't be talked about like she was invisible. "My name is Magnolia Rivers," she said, walking toward them with her head held high. "And I'm a small business owner, not the pool girl. I employ 3 people and I've built my company from nothing." Blair laughed. "How quaint. Chase, is this true? Have you been slumming?" Chase's jaw clenched. "Don't talk about her like that." "Why not?" Blair's smile was venomous. "Let's be honest about what this is. You're having a little crisis, feeling trapped, and this person represents some fantasy of freedom. But we both know you'll never leave. The Thornfield men never do." The words hit harder than Victoria's threats because they carried the weight of truth. Chase's father had tried to leave once, to pursue his passion for marine biology instead of running the family business. Victoria had crushed that dream systematically, methodically, until he'd come crawling back. "I'm not my father," Chase said quietly. "No?" Victoria stepped closer. "Then prove it. Choose. Right now. Choose between your responsibilities, your company, your employees, your family legacy, or choose this fantasy. But know that if you choose her, you lose everything. I'll make sure of it." Maggie felt sick. This was insane. 2 weeks ago, she'd been worried about making rent. Now she was somehow the center of a power struggle between billionaires. "Chase," she said softly. "Don't. She's not worth losing everything." "Maggie, I mean it." She looked at him, memorizing his face. "Your mother is right about one thing. We barely know each other, and I won't be the reason you destroy your life." "How noble," Blair drawled. "The poor girl knows her place after all." "Blair, that's enough," Chase warned. "Is it?" "Because I've been very patient, Chase. Patient about your cold feet, your constant doubts, your refusal to set a wedding date past 3 months from now. But I won't be humiliated. Not by you, and certainly not by her." Victoria placed a hand on Blair's shoulder. "You see, son, this is what real partnership looks like. Blair understands the stakes. She understands loyalty." "Loyalty?" Chase turned to his fiancée. "Blair, tell me honestly, do you love me, or do you love the merger?" Blair's perfectly made-up face went blank for a moment. "What kind of question is that?" "A simple one. Do you love me?" The pause that followed told Chase everything he needed to know. "Love is for people who can afford it," Blair finally said, echoing his own words to Maggie days earlier. "We have something better. Partnership, mutual benefit, respect. But not love. Oh, grow up, Chase. This is business. It's always been business." Maggie watched the realization wash over Chase's face, the confirmation of what he'd suspected all along. He was a commodity, not a partner, a means to an end. "I need time to think," Chase said. "Time?" Victoria's voice turned icy. "You have until the end of the week. Either you recommit to this wedding and send that girl packing, or I start dismantling everything your father built. And trust me, Chase, I know where every skeleton is buried." With that, Victoria climbed into the Mercedes. Blair hesitated, looking at Chase with something that might have been genuine concern. "Don't throw away everything for a fantasy, Chase, please." Then she too left. Chase and Maggie stood in the driveway, the silence deafening. "I should go," Maggie whispered. "Don't. Chase. Just don't. Not yet." He looked at her, and for the first time she saw real fear in his eyes. "I don't know what I'm doing, Maggie. I don't know if what I'm feeling is real, or if Blair is right and you're just an escape fantasy. But I know that when I'm with you, I feel like myself for the first time in years. That's not enough to build a life on. Maybe not. But it's a start." As the sun set over Los Angeles, turning the sky blood red, neither of them knew that Victoria had already set her next plan in motion, one that would test them both in ways they couldn't imagine. 3 days had passed since the confrontation. 3 days of radio silence from Victoria, which made Chase more nervous than any threat she could have made. His mother didn't retreat. She regrouped. Maggie arrived at the mansion at dawn as usual, but everything felt different. The security guard at the gate had given her a strange look. The housekeeper, Mrs. Chen, who normally chatted warmly with her, had barely made eye contact. "Something's wrong," Maggie muttered to herself, setting up her equipment by the pool. She was right. In a glass-walled office downtown, Victoria sat across from a weasel-faced man named Derek Sutton, private investigator to the wealthy and morally flexible. "What did you find?" Victoria asked, sliding a manila envelope across the mahogany desk. Derek smiled, revealing yellowed teeth. "Everything you wanted and more, Mrs. Thornfield. Magnolia Rivers, age 26, born in Bakersfield. Father, Robert Rivers, former factory worker, currently in hospice care, stage 4 lung cancer. Medical bills totaling $340,000. Mother died when she was 12. Maggie dropped out of UCLA in her sophomore year to care for her father and start her pool maintenance business." "Debts?" Victoria's eyes gleamed. "Oh yes, she's drowning. 3 months behind on rent for her apartment in Van Nuys. Owes $15,000 to various creditors. Her business is barely afloat. She's lost 2 major clients in the past month. She's one emergency away from bankruptcy." Victoria leaned back, satisfied. "Perfect. People in desperate situations make desperate choices. What else? Derek hesitated. There's something you should know. I found a sealed juvenile record. Took some digging, but go on. When she was 16, Maggie was arrested for theft. She stole prescription medication from a pharmacy. The charges were dropped because it was a first offense, and the medication was for her dying mother. But the record exists. Victoria's smile was predatory. Excellent work, Derek. Send me everything. Back at the mansion, Chase found Maggie staring into the pool, her cleaning net forgotten. Hey, he said softly, sitting beside her. You okay? Your mother is going to destroy me, isn't she? Maggie didn't look at him. That's what powerful people do. They crush anyone who gets in their way. I won't let her. Chase, be realistic. What can you do? You said it yourself. She controls everything. Maggie finally turned to him, tears threatening to spill. Maybe we should stop this before it gets worse. Before she digs into my life and finds all the ugly parts. What ugly parts? Maggie laughed bitterly. You think someone like me gets to 26 without scars? I've got debts, Chase. My dad is dying. I'm barely keeping my head above water. And when I was 16 and stupid and desperate, I did something I'm not proud of. What did you do? I stole medication for my mom. She was in so much pain and we couldn't afford her prescriptions. And I walked into a CVS and took what she needed. Got caught. Got arrested. They dropped the charges, but it's still there. A permanent reminder that I'm not one of you. Chase took her hand. You're right. You're not one of us. You're better. Don't romanticize poverty, Chase. It's not noble. It's terrifying. Before Chase could respond, his phone buzzed. A text from Marcus, his attorney. Your mother just hired Derek Sutton. He's investigating Maggie. Call me. Chase's blood ran cold. We need to talk. Now. Inside. They moved to Chase's private study, a room filled with first edition books he'd never read and degrees from schools that had admitted him because of his last name. My mother hired a private investigator, Chase said, pacing. She's digging into your background. Maggie went pale. My dad. Oh God, my dad. If she finds out about his medical bills, she'll use it against me. She'll offer me money again, but this time she'll make sure everyone knows I took it. She won't get the chance. I'm going to end this. How? Chase pulled out his phone and dialed. Blair, we need to talk. Today, in person. He paused, listening. No, not at my mother's house. Neutral ground. Pierre's, 1 p.m. Come alone. After he hung up, Maggie stared at him. What are you doing? Something I should have done months ago. I'm ending the engagement. Chase, no, you can't. The company… Screw the company! Chase's voice rose, surprising them both. I've spent my entire life doing what was expected, following the plan, being the perfect son, the perfect heir, the perfect prisoner. And for what? So I can spend the rest of my life in a loveless marriage, making my mother rich? But you'll lose everything. No, Maggie, I'll lose money, buildings, stocks, things. But I'll keep myself, and maybe that's enough. At 1 p.m., Chase sat across from Blair at Pierre's, an exclusive restaurant where privacy was guaranteed and paparazzi were banned. You're breaking up with me, aren't you? Blair said before Chase could speak. She looked tired, her usual polish dimmed. I could see it coming. Blair, no, let me talk. Please. She took a sip of wine. I've known about the pool girl for over a week. Your mother called me the day she first noticed you talking to her, and honestly, I was relieved. Chase blinked. Relieved? Because it meant you were human. Chase, we've been engaged for 8 months, and you've never once looked at me the way I saw you look at her that day in the driveway. Never once made me laugh like she apparently does. And I realized I deserve that too. Maybe not with you, but with someone. Blair, I'm sorry. Don't be. This engagement was my mother's dream, not mine. She wanted the Thornfield connection so badly she didn't care that we have zero chemistry. But I'm 27 years old, and I'm tired of living for her expectations. She pulled off the engagement ring and set it on the table between them. You're not the only one trapped in a cage, Chase. The difference is, you're trying to break free. Me? I've been so comfortable in mine I forgot what freedom felt like. What will you tell your mother? Blair smiled, genuine for the first time since he'd known her. That I met someone else. Someone unsuitable. Someone she'll hate. And that I'm choosing him anyway. Is there actually someone? My personal trainer, Marco. He's got no money, no pedigree, and the most beautiful soul I've ever encountered. Your pool girl inspired me. If she can fight for what she wants, so can I. They parted as something they'd never been. Friends. That evening, Chase returned to the mansion to find Victoria waiting in his study, Derek Sutton beside her, the manila envelope on the desk. Sit down, son. We need to talk about your little friend, and after you see what I've found, you'll realize she's exactly what I said she was, a gold digger with a criminal record. Victoria opened the envelope, revealing photos, documents, records. And Chase had to decide. Did he believe in Maggie, or did he believe the evidence his mother had so carefully compiled? Chase stared at the photographs spread across his desk, like accusatory evidence at a trial. Maggie at 16, being led out of a pharmacy in handcuffs. Medical bills with her father's name, eviction notices, credit card statements showing declined transactions. A criminal and a liar, Victoria said, her voice dripping with false sympathy. She never told you about the arrest, did she? Never mentioned that she's desperate enough to do anything for money. She told me, Chase said quietly. This afternoon. She told me everything. Victoria's satisfied smile faltered. What? She told me about stealing medication for her dying mother, about her debts, about her father. She didn't hide any of it. Chase stood, gathering the photographs. Unlike you, Mother, who hid the fact that you hired a private investigator to destroy someone whose only crime was being kind to me. Derek Sutton shifted uncomfortably. Mrs. Thornfield, I should go. Sit down, Victoria snapped. Then, to Chase. You're being manipulated. She told you first because she knew I'd find out. It's damage control, not honesty. Or maybe she told me because she's actually honest. A concept you wouldn't recognize. Victoria's face flushed with rage. How dare you speak to me that way? I'm protecting you from making the biggest mistake of your life. No, Mother, you're protecting your investment. There's a difference. Chase pulled out his phone and texted Maggie. My study, now, please. 5 minutes later, Maggie appeared at the door, still in her work clothes, chlorine staining her jeans. She saw the photographs, saw Derek Sutton, and understood immediately. So you found everything, she said, her voice steady despite the trembling in her hands. Good. Now Chase can see exactly who I am. Someone who doesn't belong in his world. Maggie, Chase started. No, let me say this. She walked to the desk, picked up the photo of her teenage self in handcuffs. I was 16. My mom had bone cancer. The pain was unbearable. We'd maxed out every credit card, sold everything valuable we owned. I watched her scream in agony for 3 days straight because we couldn't afford her morphine prescription. Her voice cracked, but she continued. So yes, I walked into that pharmacy, and I stole what she needed. And I'd do it again. I'd do anything to save someone I love. Victoria scoffed. How touching. A sob story to justify theft. It's not a sob story. It's my life. Maggie turned to Victoria. You were born into wealth. You've never had to choose between electricity and food. Never had to decide which bill to ignore so you could afford medicine. You see my poverty as a moral failing, but I see your wealth as a moral test you failed spectacularly. You little. Mrs. Thornfield, I'm leaving. I quit. You win. Maggie looked at Chase, her eyes filling with tears. I'm sorry I dragged you into this mess. Your mother is right. I don't belong here. I never did. She turned to leave, but Chase caught her wrist. Don't go. Chase, please. I ended the engagement with Blair today. She understood. She's actually dating her personal trainer and using our breakup as cover to live her own life. Chase looked at his mother. So there's no merger to protect, Mother. No grand alliance. Just your need to control me. Victoria's face went white. You what? I ended it. It's over. And before you threaten to disinherit me, I should tell you that I called Marcus this morning. Turns out Dad's will had provisions you never told me about. When I turn 30 in 2 years, I get direct control of my trust fund. $200 million that you can't touch. I'll also inherit Dad's 20% stake in the company, giving me enough voting power to challenge you. Your father never. He did. I have the documents. He set it up 6 months before he died because he knew what you'd become. He wanted me to have a choice, to have freedom, something you stole from him. The room fell silent except for Derek Sutton quietly gathering his papers, desperate to escape. Victoria's carefully constructed composure cracked. Everything I've done has been for this family, for you. No, Mother, everything you've done has been for yourself. Dad wanted to be a marine biologist. You forced him into the business. He died of a heart attack at 52, miserable and trapped. I won't make the same mistake. If you walk away from me for this girl, you're dead to me. Do you understand? Dead. Chase looked at Maggie, then back at his mother. Then I guess I'll see you at the funeral. Victoria grabbed her purse, her hands shaking with rage. You'll regret this, both of you. I'll make sure of it. She stormed out, Derek Sutton scrambling after her. Alone, Chase and Maggie stood in the heavy silence. You didn't have to do that, Maggie whispered. Give up everything for me. I didn't give up everything. I gave up a prison. Chase took both her hands. Maggie, I've known you for 3 weeks. That's insane. This whole thing is insane. But for the first time in my life, I'm making a choice based on what I want, not what's expected. What if what you want changes? What if you wake up in 6 months and realize you made a mistake? Then we'll deal with it together. Or we won't. But at least it'll be my mistake to make. Maggie laughed through her tears. You're crazy. You know that? Probably. But you make me want to be crazy. You make me want to be real. He kissed her then, soft and tentative, and Maggie felt her careful walls crumbling. She'd spent so long being strong, being practical, being the survivor. But in Chase's arms, she could finally be vulnerable. The moment was interrupted by Chase's phone buzzing. A text from Marcus. Your mother just filed papers to freeze your assets pending a competency hearing. She's claiming you're mentally unstable. We need to meet. Tonight. Chase showed Maggie the message. It's starting. She's going to fight dirty. Maybe I should disappear. Make this easier for you. No. Chase's voice was firm. We face this together. She wants a war? Fine. But she's about to learn that I'm my father's son, and he was the only person who ever beat her at anything. Outside, Victoria sat in her Mercedes, her perfectly manicured hands gripping the steering wheel until her knuckles went white. He chose her, she whispered to herself. He actually chose her. She pulled out her phone and made a call. Mr. Sullivan, it's Victoria Thornfield. I need your services. My son is having a mental health crisis. I need him committed for evaluation. 72-hour hold. Can you make it happen? The voice on the other end confirmed. Victoria smiled. If she couldn't control Chase with money, she'd control him with medicine. After all, a son declared incompetent couldn't make his own decisions. And Maggie Rivers, she had special plans for her. The psychiatric transport van arrived at 3 a.m. Chase woke to the sound of heavy footsteps on marble floors, his bedroom door crashing open. 2 orderlies in white uniforms stood silhouetted against the hallway light, a police officer behind them. Chase Thornfield? The officer asked, though it wasn't really a question. What the hell is this? Chase scrambled out of bed. We have a court order for emergency psychiatric evaluation. Your mother filed a petition claiming you're a danger to yourself. You need to come with us." "I'm not going anywhere. This is insane." The larger orderly stepped forward. "Sir, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. We have legal authority to transport you." Chase grabbed his phone, but the officer confiscated it. "You'll get it back after evaluation." 20 minutes later, Chase was in the back of the van, his hands not quite restrained, but his freedom definitely gone. Through the small window, he watched his mother's mansion disappear into the darkness. Victoria had won, at least for the next 72 hours. Maggie's phone rang at 3:47 a.m. Unknown number. "Hello? Maggie? It's Blair. Blair Ashworth. Don't hang up." "How did you get this number?" "Chase gave it to me before. Listen, I just got a call from a friend who works at Silver Hills Psychiatric Facility. Chase was just admitted on an emergency hold. His mother had him committed." Maggie's blood turned to ice. "She what?" "It's a 72-hour involuntary psychiatric hold. Victoria claimed he was having a mental breakdown, making irrational decisions, showing signs of instability. With the right doctors, the ones she's already paid off, she can get it extended, maybe indefinitely." "Oh my God." Maggie sank onto her couch. "What can we do?" "I don't know, but I know someone who might. Meet me at Cafe Nero at 8 a.m. And Maggie, watch your back. If Victoria did this to her own son, imagine what she'll do to you." The call ended, leaving Maggie staring at her phone in the darkness. At Silver Hills, Chase sat in a sterile white room, facing Dr. Elizabeth Morrison, a psychiatrist whose credentials were impeccable and whose morals were negotiable. "Mr. Thornfield, I understand you've been under significant stress lately," Dr. Morrison said, her smile practiced and empty. "Your mother is very concerned about some recent behavioral changes. Let me guess. She told you I broke off an engagement and that means I'm crazy?" She mentioned several concerning behaviors. Impulsive decision-making, attachment to inappropriate individuals, rejection of family support system. These can be indicators of a manic episode, Chase laughed, or indicators of finally thinking for myself. "Tell me, doctor, how much is my mother paying you to keep me here?" Dr. Morrison smiled. "Mr. Thornfield, that kind of paranoid thinking is exactly what counts. Let's talk about this woman you've become. Magnolia Rivers? Don't you dare talk about. Your mother showed me the investigation report. A woman with financial problems, a criminal record, significant debt. Classic profile of someone who might exploit a vulnerable, wealthy individual. Maggie is the least exploitative person I've ever met. Unlike everyone else in my life, she's never asked me for anything. Yet." Dr. Morrison made a note. "Mr. Thornfield, I'm recommending we extend your stay for further evaluation. With proper medication and therapy, we can help you see this situation more clearly. This is kidnapping. I'm an adult. I have rights. You have rights. And your mother has legal authority as your next of kin to seek treatment for you when you're unable to make sound decisions." The court agreed with her assessment. Chase realized with growing horror that Victoria had thought of everything. The right judge, the right doctor, the right facility. She'd built a cage so perfect he couldn't see the bars. "How long can you keep me here?" "That depends entirely on your cooperation, Mr. Thornfield." At Cafe Nero, Maggie found Blair sitting with a distinguished older man in an expensive suit. "Maggie, this is Howard Chen, one of the best attorneys in California. He specializes in psychiatric rights and wrongful commitment cases." Howard shook Maggie's hand. "Miss Rivers, Blair has briefed me on the situation. What Victoria Thornfield has done is legal, technically, but it's also highly unethical. The problem is proving it." "Can we get him out?" Maggie asked desperately. "Not immediately. The 72-hour hold is valid. But I can file a writ of habeas corpus, request an independent psychiatric evaluation, and challenge the petition's validity. However, I need leverage. I need proof that Victoria's motivations are financial control, not genuine concern for her son's welfare." "I might have something," Blair said quietly. She pulled out her phone and showed them a recording. "I've been documenting my conversations with Victoria for months. Insurance, in case she ever turned on me. Listen to this one from last week. She pressed play. Victoria's voice filled the quiet cafe. Blair, you need to understand something. Chase is a means to an end. I don't care if he's happy. I don't care if he loves you. I care that he does what he's told and maintains the family legacy. If he steps out of line, I'll destroy him. Blood or not, I'll crush anyone who threatens my control. Howard's eyebrows rose. That's incredibly helpful. With this, I can argue that the commitment is an act of coercion, not care. But we need more. We need witnesses who can testify to Chase's mental stability. I can testify, Maggie said. I've spent time with him. He's not having a breakdown. He's just finally making his own choices. You're also the person he made those choices for, Howard said gently. Your testimony will be seen as biased. We need someone neutral, someone respected. His business partner, Felix, Maggie remembered. Chase mentioned him. They've been friends since college. Felix works at the company. Perfect. Can you contact him? I'll try. As they strategized, Maggie's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Leave Los Angeles within 24 hours or your father's hospice care gets cut off. The choice is yours. VT. Maggie's hands shook. She showed the message to Blair and Howard. She's threatening your father? Blair looked horrified. That's beyond even what I thought she'd do. Your father is in hospice? Howard asked. Maggie nodded, tears burning her eyes. Stage 4 lung cancer. He has maybe 3 months left. The hospice is the only thing keeping him comfortable. If she cuts off payment, she can't do that legally, Howard said. But she can make phone calls, pull strings, create administrative nightmares that effectively accomplish the same thing. Blair grabbed Maggie's hand. Don't run. That's what she wants. She wants you gone so Chase has no reason to fight. But my father, I'll handle it, Blair said firmly. My family has connections too. I'll make sure your father's care is protected. Consider it my apology for ever being complicit in Victoria's games. Maggie looked at this woman who was supposed to be her rival and saw instead an unexpected ally. Why are you helping me? Because watching you fight for Chase made me realize I want someone to fight for me that way. And maybe Marco does. But I'll never find out if I keep playing Victoria's games. Blair smiled. Also, taking down Victoria Thornfield sounds extremely satisfying. Howard checked his watch. I need to get to the courthouse. I'll file the paperwork today. Maggie, get me Felix's contact information. Blair, send me all those recordings, and both of you be careful. Victoria is desperate, and desperate people are dangerous. As they left the cafe, Maggie felt something she hadn't felt in weeks. Hope. But in Silver Hills psychiatric facility, Chase was being given his first dose of medication, antipsychotics that would make him foggy, compliant, easier to control. And Victoria Thornfield was just getting started. Day 2 of Chase's confinement was worse than the first. The medications they'd given him made everything feel distant, like he was watching his life through foggy glass. He refused to take more, but Dr. Morrison simply noted patient non-compliance in his chart and had the orderlies hold him down for injections. This is illegal, Chase slurred, fighting the drowsiness. You can't force medication without consent. Actually, Mr. Thornfield, under emergency psychiatric hold protocols, we can administer medication if you're deemed a danger to yourself. Your refusal to cooperate is evidence of impaired judgment. It was a perfect trap. Resist and prove you're unstable. Comply and become too medicated to fight back. But Chase had one advantage Victoria hadn't considered. His roommate. James Martinez, 19, was in Silver Hills for actual depression following his mother's death. Unlike the paid-off staff, James had no loyalty to anyone but the truth. Dude, you're not crazy, James whispered after the orderlies left. I've been in 3 facilities. I know what a breakdown looks like. This is just rich people problems being weaponized. Can you help me? Chase asked desperately. I need to make a phone call. James grinned. I've got a contraband phone hidden in the bathroom vent. Cost me 3 weeks of desserts to buy off a nurse. Who do you need to call? Maggie's phone rang at 2 p.m. Unknown number again, but she answered immediately. Maggie? Chase's voice was thick, drugged, but unmistakably him. Chase! Oh my God, are you okay? They're medicating me, trying to keep me foggy. I don't have much time. They check on me every 15 minutes. He spoke quickly, fighting through the medication haze. Listen, in my home office there's a safe behind the painting of the sailboat. Code is 81597, my dad's birthday. Inside is a flash drive with recordings of my mother. Dad documented everything before he died. Her threats, her manipulation, proof she forced him to stay in the business against his will. It's evidence that she's doing the same to me. Chase, Howard Chen is already filing. There's more. The recordings include her admitting to bribing 3 board members to vote against my father when he tried to resign. It's corporate fraud, criminal. Get the drive to Marcus, my attorney. He'll know what to do. How do I get into your house? Security won't let me. Mrs. Chen, the housekeeper. She hates my mother. She knows what Victoria did to my dad. Tell her I sent you. Tell her Dad's code word. Mariposa. She'll understand. Mariposa, Maggie repeated. I have to go. Maggie, His voice cracked. I'm sorry I dragged you into this nightmare. You didn't drag me anywhere. I chose this. I chose you. The line went dead. 2 hours later, Maggie stood at the gates of the Thornfield mansion. The security guard, a new one she didn't recognize, blocked her entry. No unauthorized personnel. Mrs. Thornfield's orders. I need to speak with Mrs. Chen. It's about her son. Ma'am, I said, Mariposa! Maggie shouted toward the house. Mrs. Chen! Mariposa! A window on the second floor opened. Mrs. Chen's weathered face appeared, her eyes widening. She disappeared, and moments later the front door opened. Let her in, Mrs. Chen commanded the guard with surprising authority. Now! Inside, Mrs. Chen embraced Maggie. You're the pool girl, the one who made Mr. Chase smile again. He needs help. He told me about the safe, about the recordings. Mrs. Chen's eyes filled with tears. Mr. Robert, Chase's father. He made those recordings a month before he died. He knew what she was. He tried to protect Chase, but the heart attack took him first. She grabbed Maggie's hand. Come, quickly, Mrs. Victoria is at her club until 6 p.m. In Chase's office, they opened the safe. Inside was a small flash drive labeled simply, The Truth. There's something else you should know, Mrs. Chen said. Mr. Robert didn't have a heart attack naturally. I found his medical records after he died. Someone had been slowly poisoning him. Small doses of digoxin in his food, enough to cause heart problems over time. Maggie's blood ran cold. You think Victoria? I know Victoria. She wanted control. Mr. Robert was in her way, and now Chase is in her way. Why didn't you go to the police? With what proof? The medical examiner ruled it natural causes. Mrs. Victoria made sure of it. She has everyone bought and paid for. Mrs. Chen pressed the flash drive into Maggie's hand. But maybe this can finally stop her. At Howard Chen's office, Maggie, Blair, and Felix gathered around a laptop, listening to the recordings. Robert Thornfield's voice, weak but clear, documented years of abuse. June 15, 2019. Victoria threatened to have me declared incompetent if I tried to pursue my research position at Scripps. She said she'd destroy my reputation, claim I was having an affair, anything to keep me trapped in the company. September 3, 2020. I found evidence she's been bribing board members. Thomas Sullivan, Richard Kim, and Patricia Valdez all received offshore payments totaling $5 million to vote against my resignation proposal. January 8, 2023. I'm dying. The doctors say 6 months at most. Victoria doesn't know and I won't tell her. I'm making these recordings for Chase. Son, if you're hearing this, know that I loved you. And know that you don't have to be me. You can be free. The legal documents are with Marcus. Use them. Live the life I couldn't. The recording ended. The room was silent. "This changes everything," Howard said finally. "This isn't just about an involuntary psychiatric hold. This is evidence of corporate fraud, coercion, and potentially murder," Felix finished quietly. "If Mrs. Chen is right about the poisoning, we need to be careful," Blair warned. "Victoria has connections everywhere. If she finds out we have this—" Her phone buzzed. A text from her mother. "Victoria just called. She knows you're helping them. Consider yourself disowned." Blair stared at the message, then smiled. "Good. I was getting tired of that family anyway." Howard stood. "I'm filing an emergency motion to release Chase. With this evidence, no judge will keep him committed. But we need to move fast. If Victoria realizes what we have, she'll—" The office door burst open. Derek Sutton, the private investigator, stood there with 2 police officers. "Howard Chen, Maggie Rivers, you're under arrest for breaking and entering the Thornfield estate and theft of private property." Maggie's heart sank. Victoria had known. The security guard must have called her. "We had permission from Mrs. Chen," Maggie started. "Mrs. Chen is an employee, not the property owner. Mrs. Thornfield has filed charges. You're coming with us." As the handcuffs clicked around Maggie's wrists, she looked at Blair. "Get the flash drive to Marcus. Finish this." "I will," Blair promised. "I swear." In adjacent holding cells at the police station, Maggie and Howard waited, but they weren't worried. Because Blair had already uploaded the recordings to 3 different cloud servers and sent copies to 5 major news outlets. By 6 p.m., the story was everywhere. Billionaire Victoria Thornfield, a legacy of coercion and control. By 7 p.m., the FBI had opened an investigation into the corporate fraud allegations. By 8 p.m., the judge who'd signed Chase's commitment order recused himself, citing new evidence of potential impropriety. And by 9 p.m., Victoria Thornfield sat in her mansion, alone, watching her empire crumble on every news channel. Her phone rang. Marcus, Chase's attorney. "Victoria, the game is over. Chase is being released tomorrow morning. The fraud investigation has frozen your assets. And if you try to retaliate against Maggie Rivers or anyone else involved, I'll make sure the DA looks into your late husband's death." Victoria hung up without responding. She walked to the bar, poured herself a scotch, and stared out at the pool where this had all started. She'd underestimated them, all of them, and that mistake would cost her everything. Chase walked out of Silver Hill's psychiatric facility at 9:47 a.m., still wearing the clothes he'd been committed in 3 days earlier. The medication was wearing off, leaving him with a pounding headache and crystalline clarity about what his mother had tried to do. Maggie was waiting by the entrance, released from custody just hours before. When she saw him, she ran. They collided in an embrace that felt like coming home after a war. "I'm so sorry," Chase whispered into her hair, "for everything she put you through. Don't apologize for her. Never apologize for her." Maggie pulled back, studying his face. "Are you okay? Really okay?" "I will be, now that I'm out of there." He kissed her forehead. "You got the recordings to Marcus?" "Blair did." "She's incredible, Chase. She risked everything to help us." A sleek BMW pulled up. Blair emerged, along with Marcus and Howard Chen. "Welcome back to the land of the free," Blair said, hugging Chase. "You look terrible, by the way." "Thanks. I hear I have you to thank for taking down my mother. We all did it together. Very Avengers of us." Blair's smile faded. "But Chase, you should know. It's bad. The FBI seized company records. 3 board members have been arrested. The media is calling it the biggest corporate scandal since Enron." Marcus stepped forward. "Your mother's assets are frozen pending investigation. She's facing charges of fraud, coercion, and conspiracy. The DA is also reviewing your father's death, though that's more complicated without direct evidence." "What about the company?" Chase asked. "The employees. Your father's 20% stake transfers to you immediately. With the 3 corrupt board members removed, you effectively have controlling interest. You can save the company, Chase. But you'll have to step up as CEO. Chase looked at Maggie, then at the building behind him where he'd been held prisoner by his own mother. No, he said quietly. Everyone stared. No, Marcus repeated. I don't want it. The company, the mansion, any of it. That world nearly destroyed my father, and it almost destroyed me. Chase turned to Marcus. Sell my shares. Distribute the proceeds to the employees as bonuses and severance packages. Use whatever's left to establish a foundation in my father's name. Something for marine biology research. That's what he would have wanted. Chase, that's $200 million you're walking away from, Howard said carefully. No, I'm walking toward something. For the first time in my life, I get to choose what that is. He looked at Maggie. If that's okay with you. Why are you asking me? Maggie's voice trembled. Because whatever I build next, I want to build it with you, if you'll have me. I know it's crazy. We barely know each other. I come with the world's worst family baggage, and I'm about to be a regular person with a regular bank account. Maggie kissed him, cutting off his rambling. Yes, she said when they broke apart. But Chase, you need to understand. My life isn't glamorous. I have a dying father, debts up to my eyeballs, and a studio apartment in Van Nuys. Are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything. Victoria Thornfield sat in her attorney's office listening to the charges being outlined. Fraud, conspiracy, coercion. Each word another nail in the coffin of her reputation. We can fight this, her attorney said. With the right jury, the right narrative. No, Victoria said quietly. No more fighting. She'd spent the night reviewing her life. 40 years of clawing, manipulating, controlling. She'd built an empire and lost everything that mattered, her husband's love, her son's respect, her own humanity. I want to see Chase, she told her attorney. Before the arraignment. Please. Chase agreed to meet her at a neutral location, a small park overlooking the Pacific. Victoria looked smaller somehow, her perfect armor cracked. Thank you for coming, she said. I wasn't sure you would. I'm not here to forgive you, Chase said. I'm here to say goodbye. Victoria nodded, tears threatening for the first time in decades. Your father would be proud of you, for choosing freedom over security. He tried to do the same, and I crushed him for it. Why? Chase asked. Why did you have to control everything? Because I was terrified. My father lost everything in the '08 crash. We went from penthouses to food stamps overnight. I swore I'd never be powerless again. But somewhere along the way, I confused power with love, control with protection. She looked at her son. I destroyed your father because I couldn't stand that he wanted something more than what I could give him. And I tried to destroy you for the same reason. You need help, Mother. Real help. I know, and I'll get it. In prison, probably. Victoria attempted a smile. I'm not asking for forgiveness, Chase. I don't deserve it. But I need you to know. In my own twisted way, I did love you. I just forgot how to show it without strings attached. Chase felt tears on his own cheeks. I loved you too. I still do. But I can't have you in my life. Not now. Maybe not ever. I understand. Victoria reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope. This is the deed to your father's beach house in Monterey. The one he bought before we were married. It's not part of the estate. It was always in his name alone. He left it to you in a separate will. I kept it from you, but you should have it. Build your life there. Away from all this. Chase took the envelope, not trusting himself to speak. Victoria stood. Be happy, Chase. Choose her every day, the way your father wished he'd chosen himself. And if you have children someday, tell them their grandmother was a cautionary tale about what happens when you forget that love isn't something you control. She walked away, and Chase let her go. 2 weeks later, Maggie stood in front of hospice room 304, taking a deep breath before entering. Her father, Robert Rivers, looked frailer than ever, but his eyes were bright. Dad, there's someone I want you to meet. Chase entered, nervous in a way boardrooms never made him. "Mr. Rivers, I'm Chase Thornfield. I'm in love with your daughter." Robert studied him with the sharp gaze of a man who'd spent his life reading people. "Thornfield, the news has been full of your family drama." "Yes, sir. I'm sorry about that." "Don't apologize for your mother's choices. Apologize for your own if you make bad ones." Robert looked at Maggie. "Baby girl, is this what you want?" "It is, Daddy. More than anything." Robert smiled. "Then you have my blessing. But young man, if you hurt her—" "I won't, sir. I promise you that." Promises are easy. Keeping them is hard, especially when life gets difficult. And it will. Money problems, health scares, ordinary daily frustrations. Romance is the easy part. Marriage is work. "I know, sir, but she's worth the work." "She's worth everything." Robert reached out a weak hand and Chase took it. "Take care of my girl. And Maggie, take care of him too. Rich or poor, everyone needs someone to come home to." As they left the hospice, Chase took Maggie's hand. "Your dad's right. This won't be easy. Nothing worth having ever is." Maggie stopped, turning to face him. "Chase, are you really ready for this? A life without mansions and private jets? Working for a living, being ordinary?" Chase laughed. "Maggie, I've been extraordinary my whole life, and it nearly killed me. Ordinary sounds perfect. Then let's be ordinary together." They drove toward Monterey, toward the beach house, toward a future they'd build themselves. Behind them, Los Angeles disappeared into the haze. Ahead, the ocean stretched endless and free. The Monterey beach house was nothing like the Thornfield mansion. It was small, weathered by salt air, with creaky floors and windows that didn't quite close all the way. Chase had never loved a place more. He woke to the sound of waves and Maggie humming in the kitchen. 6 months of living together, and he still marveled at the simple domesticity of it, making coffee, arguing over whose turn it was to do dishes, falling asleep on the couch during movies. "Morning," Maggie said, kissing him as he shuffled in. "I've got good news and hard news. Which do you want first?" Chase's stomach dropped. In the past months, they'd rebuilt their lives from scratch. He'd taken a job as a marine biology research assistant at Hopkins Marine Station, entry-level, minimum wage, exactly what his father had dreamed of doing. Maggie had expanded her pool business with 3 new employees. Money was tight, but manageable. Hard news first, always. Maggie's eyes filled with tears. Hospice called. My dad. He passed away this morning. Peacefully, in his sleep. Chase pulled her into his arms, letting her cry. They'd known it was coming. Robert had held on longer than doctors predicted, long enough to see his daughter happy. "I'm so sorry, baby. What can I do?" "Just be here. Like you have been." Maggie wiped her eyes. "He left me a letter. Want to hear it?" She pulled out an envelope, her father's shaky handwriting across the front. "My dearest Magnolia, if you're reading this, I'm gone. Don't cry too long. I've had a good life, and seeing you happy these past months has been the best ending an old man could ask for. Chase is a good man, not because he gave up millions for you, though that helps, but because he does the dishes without being asked and makes you laugh at terrible jokes. Those are the things that matter in year 10, year 20, year 50. I'm leaving you $47,000, every penny I had left after medical bills. I know it's not much, but use it wisely. Maybe for a wedding, or a down payment on expanding the business, or just for peace of mind. Be happy, baby girl. That's all I ever wanted. Love, Dad." Chase and Maggie held each other as the morning sun streamed through the windows, grief and gratitude mixing in equal measure. "What's the good news?" Chase finally asked. Maggie laughed through her tears. "Blair called. She's getting married. To Marco, the personal trainer. She wants us at the wedding, and she specifically requested that Blair's getting married before. Should I be offended?" Maggie pulled back, studying his. Are you asking what I... Chase dropped to one knee right there in their still in his pajamas. Magnolia Rivers, I don't have a 5-carat diamond or a fancy speech prepared. I don't have a mansion to offer you or a trust fund to fall back on. What I have is a job that pays $32,000 a year, a beach house with questionable plumbing, and a heart that's completely, irrevocably yours. Will you marry me? You forgot something, Maggie said, kneeling down to face him. What? You have me, and I have you. That's everything. She kissed him. Yes. 1,000 times yes. 3 months later. The wedding was small. 30 people on the beach at sunset. Blair was maid of honor, wearing a dress she'd bought off the rack and declared shockingly affordable. Felix was best man, having quit the Thornfield Company to start his own consulting firm. Mrs. Chen attended, crying happy tears. Even Marcus came, bringing news. Victoria took a plea deal, 5 years minimum security, 3 years probation. She's also agreed to mandatory psychiatric treatment. She asked me to tell you she's genuinely trying to change. I hope she does, Chase said. For her sake. The ceremony was officiated by a local judge who'd never heard of the Thornfield scandal. As the sun dipped toward the Pacific, Chase and Maggie exchanged vows they'd written themselves. I promise to choose you every day, Chase said. In the boring moments and the exciting ones. When money is tight and when it's not. When we agree and especially when we don't. You saved me from a life I didn't want. Now let me spend my life making you happy. I promise to never let you forget who you are, Maggie said. Not the heir or the scandal or the man who gave it all up, just Chase. The man who makes terrible coffee and leaves his socks everywhere and loves marine biology documentaries more than any human should. That's who I'm marrying. That's who I choose. They kissed as the sun set, and everyone cheered. At the reception in the beach house's tiny backyard, Blair pulled Maggie aside. I have something for you. She handed over an envelope. It's from Victoria. Inside was a check for $500,000 and a note. Maggie, I destroyed my son's life trying to control it. You gave him his life back by setting him free. This money comes from my personal accounts, not the company. Use it to build something beautiful together. And thank you for being braver than I ever was. Victoria. Maggie showed Chase. They looked at each other, thinking the same thing. The Marine Biology Foundation, they said simultaneously. With Victoria's money and Robert's $47,000, they established the Robert Rivers Marine Research Foundation, funding scholarships for students from low-income backgrounds pursuing ocean sciences. The first scholarship recipient was a 19-year-old girl from Bakersfield whose single mother cleaned houses to make ends meet. Full circle. 2 years later, Chase stood on the dock behind their beach house, now fully renovated thanks to his modest salary and Maggie's thriving pool business, which had expanded to serve all of Monterey County. In his arms, their 6-month-old daughter, Marina, gurgled happily. She had Maggie's green eyes and Chase's dark hair. What are you two doing out here? Maggie joined them, slipping her arm around Chase's waist. Just showing Marina the water. Thought she should know what her namesake looks like. She's 6 months old. She thinks everything is fascinating. Then she gets that from you. Blair and Marco visited often, now expecting their own child. Felix had started dating Mrs. Chen's daughter, much to everyone's delight. The Thornfield Company had been restructured and was thriving under new leadership focused on ethical practices. And Victoria? She'd been released after 3 years for good behavior. She lived quietly in a small apartment in San Diego, volunteering at a women's shelter and attending therapy twice a week. She sent cards on Marina's birthday and Christmas, never asking to visit, respecting the boundaries Chase had set. Some bridges could be rebuilt, some couldn't. And that was okay. As the sun set over the Pacific, Chase kissed his wife, held his daughter, and marveled at how wrong he'd been all those years ago. Happiness wasn't a luxury he couldn't afford. It was the only thing worth having. And he'd found it in the most unexpected place, in the eyes of a pool cleaner who'd seen through his money and found the man beneath. "I love you," he whispered to Maggie. "I know," she whispered back. "Now let's go inside. Your daughter needs a diaper change, and it's definitely your turn." Chase laughed. "Ordinary life is the best life." "Damn right it is." And as they walked back to their imperfect, beautiful home, Marina babbling between them, Chase knew his father was somewhere smiling. He'd finally done it. He'd chosen himself. And in doing so, he'd found everything. The end.